All right, welcome back, family. You're listening to Commitments Radio on WDRB Media. We are talking to our special guest, Miss Cidnee Gordon, about her relationship with her dad. And Cidnee, you've talked to us a little bit about memories and what made a memory or an impact on you. You've talked about lesson or a lesson that you learned from your dad. As we kind of move forward through your relationship with your dad. How did your dad show his love to you when you were growing up? What did that look like?
Um, I think my dad is like a really big gift giver. And so like I said earlier, I was absolutely spoiled. I have a joke of like growing up, the only thing that I wanted and just did not get was the pony I was promised for every birthday. Never got that. But everything else, I mean, it
I'm
was
sure you got My Pretty Pony. I remember that,
well, I mean, I got a toy of a pony.
right?
Boy, I was imagining like, a pony.
All right.
Hair.
So he's a gift giver.
Yeah. And so it was a lot of like I think one of the biggest things, especially because my dad was like raised in the church by Baptist, Pentecostal, deep South Black people, there's a certain culture I think you get raised up within. And so I think a big part of that culture is providing. And
Hmm.
I think for a lot of men who are a part of that culture, when their family is thriving, then they're thriving. They have something to look to as yeah, I did that. Like I got them sort of deal. And there was just a lot of definitely like love and affection outside of just like material gifts,
Hmm.
but definitely like a big gift, vacation, surprises sort of like person.
And what was that enough for you at the time?
I would say like yes and no. I think it shifted when I was a teenager.
Hmm.
Um, because when you're little, you want the world and the moon and the stars and all that. Um, and then I think somewhere in puberty and hormones, I shifted into being a really like physical contact, touchy. Like if I liked you and you were in my safe bubble, which
Hmm.
there's only like five people,
Hmm.
um, that I just wanted to spend all of my time with you. So it was a little difficult, like I said earlier, when you are, as a parent, wanting to provide everything for your child. And so you have to go to work. Like if you could spend all day at home, I'm pretty sure every single parent would never go to work again and still make the money to provide.
Right,
But
right.
it's a slippery sort of deal. So I would say I kind of like shifted from a like 100% yes to like a 50-50.
And so, given that kind of that evolution as you as a person and as you grew and your needs changed and you have the impact of the economic factors and then an
Right,
impact of a divorce as well
right.
that occurred, how did your relationship with your dad change over the years and as you are adulting?
Well, see, this is something that we've definitely talked about a lot, and
You,
um,
you and your father have talked about.
yes, me and my dad. Um, and it's always been, I think the dynamic of what it meant to have a child changed because I think inherently parents see their children as extensions of themselves,
Hmm.
but children, fortunately or unfortunately, are their own people.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the communication styles, I think, shifted when I started going to school a lot more and my um, interpersonal circle expanded
Hmm.
and brain stuff and just like going through the battle of going through school, your focus changes to your peers.
Hmm.
Um, And so I think it's just grown and dipped and developed and recessed and progressed. And I think it's just a show of what it is to interact with a human being for 25 plus years, you know? Um,
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because for the parents out there who have children where they have these amazing relationships and the relationships just keep getting better and better and better, I applaud you and I think that's wonderful and you should and you should be incredibly happy. But I know, that that's not always reality. As people grow and they grow into adulthood, their needs change, who they are changes, their styles change, their communication preferences change. And then when you layer on top of that something like a divorce, which I know impacted you a lot, and then just living life, right?
yeah, yeah.
Going to college and trying to find out who you were. And then dealing with a parent who wanted you to be made in their image. I mean, that impacts as well. And so how does having a parent who wants you to do what they want you to do because they have the answers and they know it, how does that impact your development?
Um, if you would have asked me that question a couple years ago, I'd have a very different response. Um, Back then I would have said that I hated it and just very negative things towards it. But like I said, just like with growing, I feel like I go through quarter life crises at least 7 times a week. And so in that growth, understanding just like my humanity and human nature, um, you just try not to take it to heart, if that makes sense.
Mhm,
Like I think I know now more than anything that the only reason my parents are telling me these things is 50% because they genuinely do want what's best for me, but the other 50% is just purely based off of their experience.
mhm.
And who am I to deny you of that experience? Um, if that's something that you see in your child and they could be all these good things, I think it's great to still see that potential. um I do think that if you continue to do that, you're just going to ruin and jade their own feelings about themselves. But I feel like overall, um my grandmother used to say you have to just take the meat and throw out the stones or throw out the bones, so with that.
All right, all right. Well, listen, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion with Cidnee Gordon. You're listening to Commitments Radio on WDRB Media. We're going to be right back after the break.